a big section on running backs. Let's begin with this video from Kyle on Rico Dowdle.
Hey guys, love the show. Shout out to the Colts, go JT, shout out to McLaren, shout out to F1. But yeah, I got to rant on this really quickly. As a Rico Dowdle owner, I don't have words. I don't understand. I understand most of us got him off waivers or got him late in the draft, but he's clearly the Panthers' best player outside of McMillan. Like, it's not even close. He's averaging, again, 8 touches he's averaging what, 6.8 yards per carry yesterday? And I understand Chuba is loved by the organization. He was just paid. But in a team that struggles to have playmakers on their squad, why are we not using your best playmaker? Like, he's clearly the better back. I don't know. Yeah, it could be someone that was really hoping that Dowdle would still be able to sit in his RB2 spot. But it's really looking like he's not even getting goal line carries. Now Chuba punched in a touchdown yesterday, but yeah, it's frustrating because you watch this guy who is explosive. He's fun to watch. He's, really good with the ball in his hands after the catch. But see, even my 2-year-old son's upset about it. But yeah, let me know. Cause yeah, it doesn't even seem like he's in the flex consideration at this point. Maybe, but maybe I'm overreacting.
Okay, I'll admit when I first opened this video from Kyle, I was like, this is too long to play on the show. We'll have to cut this somewhere. Like when he's starting to go a little bit about, just the frustration of it all. I was like, all right, we might have to limit this a little bit. And then when he has the 2-year-old, which I didn't even know is in the video for the audience that's just listening to this, you don't see the 2-year-old because Kyle's filming this in his car. You don't even see that he's in the back seat. And when the kid starts whining, I was like, and he goes, see, even my 2-year-old is frustrated by Rico Dowdle. That was perfect. So shout out to Kyle for a fantastic video submission. Love that. Love that you just parked somewhere and you're like, hey, listen, kid, pipe down while I gotta rant to the boys about Rico Dowdle. Absolutely love that. All right, what is the level of frustration? What is the panic on Rico Dowdle right now, Boone? We have some quotes to read from Dave Canales here, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
Well, I think the quotes are a big part of it for sure. For me, it's just some panic because I think they have to make the change. And I mean, I think we have to bring up the quotes here from Canales because it kind of changes everything, right? Like he talks about Chuba Hubbard has meant a lot to this team. We wanted to give him an opportunity following his calf injury, but we can't ignore the fact that Rico Dowdle has been exceptional. He got asked if Rico Dowdle could have a heavier workload moving forward and said it's something we're looking at. I think the way he's talking might be setting everyone up for what will be a tough decision in that locker room because we've mentioned how much people in that locker room, in that organization love Chuba Hubbard, the contract they gave him last year, and yet he is just not playing very well, right? Maybe he's not 100%. I think I talked about when he came back from the injury, was he worried that he was going to lose his job? Did he rush back from the injury? Because he doesn't look like the same player at all. He's averaging under 3 yards per carry right now, 26 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown, 2 catches for 24 yards. That's over the last 2 games here. He's playing around 55% of the snaps. Meanwhile, in that time, you have Dowdle, who's just playing around 40% of the snaps. It went down from 47 2 weeks ago to just 36 this week. But he gained 133 rushing yards on 25 carries. He's got 17 yards on 1 catch. He's by far the most effective back that they have right now. It would be terrible, terrible coaching if they don't make a change and start to give Dowdle more work. It's not going to be 70-30, but we got to get Dowdle the first series. We got to get Dowdle out there as the 60-40 guy, not as the guy who's just playing 40% of the snaps or less here. And you never know, like he could say those quotes to the media and then nothing really changes. That's always a possibility. But I think if they're serious about winning, they have to get Dowdle out there as the lead back. So for me, it's just some panic. And really, it might have been total panic if it weren't for these quotes. They're the things that are giving me just a little bit of hope. But Harmon, is this not kind of like the Seahawks backfield where we keep saying like Kenneth Walker, the much more effective guy, and yet the team just keeps rolling them out with Charbonnet being the guy who's not getting as many yards, not getting as much production, but he's getting the touchdowns, ends up being an okay fantasy play, and it just brings the ceiling down for both guys. So even if Rico Dowdle becomes the 60-40 guy, it's not going to put him back to where he was. I'm sorry, everyone. Those 2 games where he was the man, he's not going back there. But if he can get the lead job at least, then you could play him a little more confidently as an RB2 in your lineup.
Oh, yeah. If you think that Rico Dowdle is going back to owning the full backfield and doing what he did in those 2 games without Chuba Hubbard, like, you got to put yourself in the coping corner, okay? Because that's not going to happen here. But not only are you interpreting it that way, that's kind of how I'm interpreting these quotes. We just showed Joe Person from The Athletic. Again, I mentioned before, I've followed Joe's work for a long time. He has covered this team forever, and that's how he was interpreting it, saying it seems pretty clear that Dave Canales is going to give Rico Dowdle the lion's share of the carries. While he understands the dynamic of reducing a role of a popular player like Chuba Hubbard, Canales says, quote, "The heart of it is winning games and putting our best foot forward," which you mentioned this, giving Rico Dowdle the first series. That's what I want to caution people against, is assuming that even if the roles flip here, that Chuba Hubbard is going to completely go away. I think there is a 0% chance that Chuba Hubbard even takes a clear backseat to Rico Dowdle, because Chuba Hubbard is still good. I agree with you, hasn't looked good the last 2 weeks, but let's not act like this guy wasn't one of the best backs, one of the most efficient, successful backs on a per like carry basis last season. Was really kind of the heart and soul of that team, and had good weeks to start this year. He's coming off an injury, which I'm sure has slowed his performance, but the reality is, one of the things I've talked about with this Panthers team is they start so slow in these games, and giving Chuba Hubbard the less explosive back right now, that first series, it's part of what's putting them behind in the scoreboard. And you saw that even the game that they won the week prior, you saw that they had that issue. But certainly in this game, they fell behind to your Bills really quick. And then, I mean, with freaking Andy Dalton's your quarterback, it's over so quickly. So I think we'll see Rico get the start. I think we'll see, because this is a meritocracy. He's just played better. He's earned it. He's going to get the start, and then he will get the first series, and then we'll see how it goes from there. I do think your comparison of the Seahawks backfield is probably how this looks, and it's going to make both of these guys kind of, one's a running back 2 and one is a flex play, which is, I think, kind of what the Seahawks backfield is. I just think this rushing environment is going to be a little bit better than Seattle's.
Yeah, the thing that I'm worried about as you were talking there that I started to think about is, okay, what if it is partially the injury with Hubbard? And so, yeah, okay, they give it to Dowdle, next week, he gets 55%, 60%. And then little by little, Hubbard is removed from the injury, starts to get a little healthier. And then we just end up at like a 50-50 backfield, and it's frustrating week to week.
Yeah.
I think that could be where this goes. Like, it is going to be problematic. That's why it's some panic and not no panic on Rico Dowdle. But I held off from the total panic because those quotes are fairly positive. You don't normally see a coach kind of come out and talk like that. So if he is saying that, I get why the beat writers are interpreting it that way and figuring that we're going to see Rico Dowdle get more work, because it's awesome to see a coach come out and kind of acknowledge that and give props to the veteran guy and the guy who's that, leader on their team, in the same breath kind of going, you know what, we got this other guy that's playing a lot better, and we're going to have to give him the work. And I think the team's going to be better for it. And I think fantasy managers will be happier as long as Dowdle can answer the bell when he gets those opportunities and continue to be the more effective guy, which we'll see if that changes at all throughout the season if Hubbard gets healthier.
Yeah, I buy Canales when he says this. This is the guy that benched Bryce Young last year when he wasn't playing well. The former number 1 overall pick, a guy who played Jalen Coker as a UDFA last year. I think it's hey, you earn it. You go ahead and you get that. I mean, hey, he made Chuba Hubbard the starter last year when Miles Sanders was on a big fat contract. So it's, again, this is a situation where the best player will play. And I think right now Rico Dowdle's playing well. They're in Green Bay this week, so it's not even that great of a matchup. But then the Saints and the Falcons after that, the Niners, there are some good spots for this Panthers team before they face the Rams in week 13 and then a bye week 14. So I think that's a good discussion point on that Panthers backfield. Let's go to another situation here. Anthony sends this in on Breece Hall. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm panicked, which no kidding. He just had his best game of the season, did Breece Hall. But what do I do with Breece Hall? His schedule, if he doesn't get traded, seems a bit up and down. Plus, he's almost splitting with Isaiah Davis. And if he does get dealt, would that even make his situation that much better? So should I sell high or just ride it out? What is your level of panic on Breece Hall after, again, his best game of the season?
I know this is going to seem so strange, and yet it's still total panic. Now, there's a bunch of caveats we got to go through here, right? So if you have a winning record, I'm willing to ride it out with him because I think there is a chance that he gets traded. Okay. He's got some better matchups down the road where he could help you. But the person writing in here is right. Like, the schedule is going to be scary. Over the next 3 weeks, he is probably not going to do much for your fantasy team. Like, he just took advantage of a good matchup. Now the matchups are not going to be good. He's got to bye this week, then the Browns, then the Patriots. That is not ideal. So if you are around 500, if you have a losing record, I think you have to trade him. I think you have to try to capitalize on that big game, which is probably going to be, let's face it, his best game of the season. You go out, you capitalize on that, you trade him for something that can actually help you maybe right the ship over the next few weeks here, because I just don't think you're going to see anything close to that from him. And I'm not even sure if you're going to get, even decent numbers from him in those games against that Browns defense. And then obviously against the Patriots defense, they got a very, very strong front there, good run defense. So I think you have to move him. And you keep him for, if you do have the winning record, then you hold for the better matchups down the road, like the Ravens they play, the Dolphins, who everybody kills, the Saints. Like, he can come through on those if he sticks around. And if not, if he gets traded, he's probably going to a contender, which would be pretty good, I would think, for his fantasy value, right? So that's kind of how I view this one. It's total panic for most fantasy managers. But if you have a really good winning record, if your team can kind of, weather the storm here, I would hang on to him in that situation and that situation only.
No, I think that's really good analysis. I kind of lightly hinted at that. Is this a sell high moment for Breece Hall on the recap show with Chris Allen? I think you're kind of hammering home the point there. I will say that matchup in Baltimore against the Ravens, I just want to put it on people's radar because I've seen this a lot in the reaction to the Bears game. Well, the Bears passing game really struggled against what's been one of the worst defenses in the league. That Ravens defense is coming off a bye. We saw this with them last year where they were super generous in the first half of the season, and then they kind of flipped Kyle Hamilton's role, and then they were really good to end the season. Now, they're still pretty banged up. They do have some spots that are concerning, but I do just want to put it on the radar that Ravens one, especially when we're doing schedule analysis, they might be actually a pretty good defense in the back half of the year. But regardless, still coming off the bye and facing the Browns and the Patriots, that's a tough spot for Breece Hall. So I like your point to kind of give him a bit of a total panic with the caveat of it matters where your team is from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, I think with the Ravens defense, I'm a little more worried about their pass defense getting better. I still think they're going to have some issues in the run game just based on guys being out for the season and stuff. Some of the injuries that they had in the secondary, it's those guys that are coming back, right? So we'll see, but it's a good point by you that some of these situations are going to change. Some teams that were bad early in the season, they're going to get guys back healthy. Some rookies are going to start to step up. We got to keep kind of adapting as we go here. People always got to keep that in mind. Yep.
All right, next one comes in from Jeff on Josh Jacobs. Matt and Justin, should I be worried about Josh Jacobs? Sure, he scored, but when it came to icing the game, he was not on the field. Is this now a timeshare? Just to back up Jeff's point here, Boone, in weeks 1 to 6, Josh Jacobs had an 80% share of the running back touches for the Green Bay Packers. These last 2 weeks, it's around 58, 59%. So do you have any panic on lead back, quote unquote, Josh Jacobs?
I don't. I think it's the injury, is it not? Like, he's been playing through an injury. Yeah. He's been limited in practice. He's been missing some practice. I think that's the situation the last couple of weeks why he probably has a little less work. And to me, the fact that he scored, 9 touchdowns this year, he's got 5 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. He's still getting it done for you, even on that reduced volume. So I think that's a great thing. I think that's a sign of how productive he is, how good he is for fantasy. And assuming he does get healthy coming away from this injury, the further he gets away from it, I think he's going to go right back to getting big workloads and crushing for you in fantasy. So no, I wouldn't panic at all on this one. I think he's an awesome fantasy back. And I think he's still been producing for you. So I think you might be getting a little too cute on that one. When you start to break it down, it's very good to analyze all this stuff, but make sure you're taking into account that there's an injury situation there. I don't think this is turning into any sort of committee. Although, have you heard anything about Marshawn Lloyd? Like, is Marshawn Lloyd coming back at all this year, Harmon? Like, he went on IR again.
Nothing.
And then there's just been no word about him at all. And Emmanuel Wilson has taken over the number 2 role there. And that's kind of the way we're going. So I say it because every Monday when I write my waiver wire column, I have like an IR stash section at the bottom of each position. And I keep throwing Marshawn Lloyd in there, just like, well, if you have the open IR spot, put him on that and hold on to him. But I haven't heard any sort of updates. There was one maybe a few weeks ago that he was nearing a return, but I don't even think that was coming from the team. I think that was just like people speculating that his IR, the designated time for those 4 weeks was coming to an end. So I would like to see him come back. And if the reason I bring that up is because if he came back, he might be the only one who I think could start to carve out more of a role and take things away from Josh Jacobs. Not that he's going to overtake him for the job by any means, but I think he could be a guy, if he could stay healthy, that might be able to do that. Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks, they're not doing that. They're decent backups, but they're not guys that are going to turn this into a committee.
Totally agree. I just Googled news on Marshawn Lloyd. The top 3 headlines for Marshawn Lloyd in least to most recent is one, what happened to Marshawn Lloyd? Question. Then what will Marshawn Lloyd's role be when he returns 3 weeks ago? And then the most recent one is AJ Dillon could suddenly be available amid Packers silence on Marshawn Lloyd. So yeah, no, wow. There's no updates on Marshawn Lloyd. And I'm with you. No panic on Josh Jacobs, who, let's not forget, week 7, he was like a true game time decision. We didn't even know if he was going to play. And I don't know if people saw this. They can go look it up on social media, I'm sure. But he had like an emotional speech to the guys after that win about how he's like, if I can go at, like, you guys mean so much to me. It looked like he's about to cry. Like, if I can go, you guys mean so much to me. I'm going to go out and grit through it. So yes, it's like a bit of a win-lose in fantasy because he's probably not going to be his usual effectiveness if he goes out there, but you're also still playing him and still getting something from him during the stretch. So any moment now, maybe it's this game against the Panthers, any moment now, he could just flip it on and he's back to Josh Jacobs, 80% of the touches, set it and forget it, top 5 running back in fantasy.
And the only other thing I will say about him is he has a matchup with the Lions in week 13. That's a pretty good run defense. Other than that, go look at his schedule. It is a lot of green.
Yeah,
it is a
nice.
lot of friendly matchups in the second half of the season. So I think he is going to have some huge games for fantasy managers.
All right. Last running back one comes in from Zach on Alvin Kamara. Howdy. Love a howdy. Love the show. Came for Boone, stayed for Harmon. I appreciate that. I'm glad that I wasn't so awful to drive you away from your guy, Justin Boone here. And I appreciate all the Boone Brigade that came in here to join the show with us. Alvin Kamara, he's cooked, right? Thanks, Zach. Love the simplicity here. What's the panic level on Alvin Kamara, Boone?
Oh, I hate to do this, Harmon. This guy has been so good for so long in fantasy. He's going to the coping corner. How could he not, right? Yeah. He hasn't topped 35 rushing yards in over a month here. He got banged up this week too. I don't know if you saw that. It was like ankle, knee, like he's a tough guy. He keeps trying to play through this stuff, but he's not the same player. Even before that injury, he's not the same player. He's not getting as many targets this year. Like Kellen Moore just not using him that way like he had been in the past where he was catching like 80 balls every season, not being used that way anymore. So that's not there to save his fantasy value. He's not scoring touchdowns. He's only got 1 touchdown this year, I'm pretty sure. Like, what is there to hang your hat on? You thought maybe this week, maybe this would be the week. Kendre Miller's out. They have to go to him. They have to give him huge volume. He'll come through. He's not coming through. I just don't see a scenario. I think they're going to get other guys involved. I think Devin Neal is somebody to go out and stash because down the stretch, are they going to start to look at these younger guys that they have on the roster? Probably. We saw Devin Neal get a little bit involved in this game. So, yeah, Alvin Kamara, this one hurts to do it. But in my mind, Harmony's got to go to the coping corner.
Yep, I agree with you. He says he doesn't want to get traded. He said, I guess that I could be traded, but, and then I'll just go sip a pina colada somewhere else. He's in sipping pina colada mode. So I think he's kind of like pre-retired at this point, is Alvin Kamara. He's thinking about what's next in New Orleans for him after his career. And I don't blame him. He's had a great career. He, at this point, though, is just not an effective back. I mentioned it last week in terms of his success rate compared to other running backs. This is just not a good run game, period. And unfortunately, he needs to be a good running back because of that pass game usage, which has gone to the wide receivers. We'll talk about those guys a little bit more later. So that's just the state of the state with Alvin Kamara. I agree. He is our coping corner candidate this week.